Hello everyone, GoldenNova here. Today's video comes courtesy of this month's patron vote, and while the competition was fierce, I guess there's no other way it could have gone. Strap in folks, things are about to get flippin' weird. Premiering in the February 2018 core set Extreme Force, Tindangles is the theme piloted by Akira Zaizen, the Chief of Security turned Executive Director of Soul Technologies in Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains, the big bad evil cyberpunk company that every setting like this has to have because, let's face it, if your antagonist isn't a giant corporation with zero oversight acting as a fascist state, then you're not cyberpunk, you're propaganda. And if that name sounds familiar, well, it should, because Akira is the half-brother of Sky Zaizen, who moonlights as the idol of Vrains, Blue Angel. But where she pilots the talented Trickstars and the mysterious Marincess, Akira wields a horde of terrors beyond human comprehension. Which is, as it turns out, exactly how you can describe a company with overreaching authority that has an overwhelming but imperceptible control of your life. But hey, keep politics out of Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Get ready to delve into the deck that is scares around every corner, or should I say, angle, with Tindangle Explained. Today's episode is brought to you by my lovely patrons, as well as the wonderful people over at Dragon Shield. Get the sleeves as strong as dragon scales and save 5% on your order by using coupon code GoldenNova at checkout. So, what's the deal with Tindangles? Well, they're a series of dark attribute fiend-type monsters, and with very few exceptions, are also flip monsters. That's right, one of the many mechanics that don't line up with a modern expression of the game that keeps getting ridiculous support to keep it up to date. Honestly, it's a testament to the design team that Tindangles are actually pretty decent despite all their innate setbacks, which is part of what makes them such a fascinating deck. Aesthetically, while we do get the big Lovecraftian influence, the prime focus is the Hounds of Tindangles, terrifying beings that mock the bounds of Euclidean space by using physical angles, like corners or edges, to teleport from one of these to another. So while the dangle part of the name is what's focused on, I'm expecting a million Tindangler references down below, which is very funny. The intent was likely to mix the tind of Tindangles with angle, from corners. Now, these monstrosities are often called Lovecraftian in nature. In fact, I do that at the beginning of this paragraph, but to keep things on the level, these creatures originated from author Frank Belknap Long, who was himself a friend of Lovecraft, who even referenced the creature in his own works. And with that miniature literature lesson out of the way, let's begin by talking about Tindangle Drelth, a level 3 monster with 0 attack and 1800 defense, and its flip effect can take any flip monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the grave. If this card is in your hand, you can discard one other card to send a Tindangle card from your deck to the grave except a copy of this card, and if you do, special summon this card in face down defense position. While the listed monster type is Fiend, this card itself is a machine that turns cards into pulp. Its whole mission is to fill your grave with all kinds of goodies, and while we can use it to get all kinds of monsters in there well enough, it's also a way to get soul charge in there, potentially setting us up for some outrageous plays. And its flip effect interacting with all flip monsters bodes well for our splash ability. This is a big part of the deck's success, and I shall endeavor to do my best to consume what has to be the most delicious forbidden gummy that I've ever seen. Tindangle Protector is a level 3 monster with 800 attack and 1600 defense, and its flip effect can change up to 3 face-down defense position monsters you control to face-up defense position. Then, if all those monsters are Tindangles, you can add up to that many Tindangle cards from your deck to your hand. Once again, we're seeing design that meshes really well with our flip decks. True, if you flip up anything off-theme, you don't get to tutor any new cards, but if the effect of those off-theme cards are worth the trade-off, it's good that you have the option. That being said, we're going to be happening across some other Tindangles who have much more protective effects. So why in the wide world of sports does this end up as the protector of the theme? I'm starting to think the horror-terror archetype might not be mapping cleanly onto my perception of reality. Oh hey Silent Hill, what are you doing here? Tindangle Angel is a level 4 monster with 500 attack and 1800 defense, and if flipped, you can special summon a flip monster from your hand or grave in face-down defense position, except a copy of this card. Then, if it's your opponent's battle phase, end the battle phase. Haha, damn, now that's how you shut down a push for game. Get another flip monster, then tell your opponent to take a hike. and it even gives you back any flip monster we have in rotation, so get ready to perform some shenanigans. It's the kind of stuff you can get away with when you're being looked over by your guardian angel. Or should I say, your guardian angle. I'm here all week, folks. Tindangle Trinity is a level 4 monster with 0 attack and 1500 defense, and if flipped, special summons a Tindangle base Gardener from your deck. And as a continuous effect, if this card was flipped face up, all Tindangle monsters can't be destroyed by battle. If this card is sent to the grave as link material for the link summon of a Tindangle monster, you can add a Gargone's End from your deck to your hand. And if you do, send a spell or trap card from your deck to the grave. Gargone's End is one of our support trap cards that isn't name-stamped, and being able to send any spell or trap card to the grave is pretty nice because a majority of our non-monster support is also not name-stamped and has good graveyard effects. And trust me, the card we're actually searching is no slouch either. Being able to special summon out base Gardener is also going to be very important for reasons we'll get to when discussing our link monster. And yeah, that battle destruction protection effect doesn't have an expiration date, so as long as this has been flipped, your opponent's going to need piercing damage if they want to use battle to win. And I've got to say, I love this deformed flesh pile. You've got heads and necks stretching and contorting to fit a tripartite eldritch form. Mwah! When I say I miss old school Yu-Gi-Oh art, this is what I'm talking about. Tindangle base Gardener is a level 5 monster that is not a flip monster with 0 attack and 2300 defense. And if you control a face down defense position monster, you can special summon this card from your hand in defense position. And you can only special summon copies of this card this way once per turn. If a monster is normal or special summoned and is now pointed to by an opponent's link monster except during the damage step, you can tribute this card to special summon a Tindangle monster from your hand or deck in attack position or face down defense position. Its ease of special summoning will lend itself to being used as link material, which will be very helpful and may be able to morph into another Tindangle, though it does require our opponent to have link monsters, and is very much an effect that was built to take advantage of the original Master Rule 4. Nowadays, it's largely a Garnet, but one you're not always unhappy to see. In fact, you might want to make sure you keep it close at all times. You never know when the Absolute is going to try and take over your mind, so you better have that Astral Prism on hand just in case. Tindangle Dholes is a level 5 monster with 1000 attack and defense, and if flipped, you can send a spell or trap card from your deck to the grave. If this card is sent from the hand or deck to the grave, you can target a Tindangle monster in your grave, accept a copy of this card, and special summon it in face down defense position. And the Tindangle monster that used this card as material can make 3 attacks during each battle phase. Hot dog! Giving 3 attacks to anything is pretty scary, and I think you'll find our bosses equal to the task. We can trigger this off of the effect of Drelth, whether we pitch it from hand or send it from deck, giving it another layer of utility we can utilize. And as stated with Trinity, having a Foolish Burial Goods is, well, good for us, as well as letting us use any other spell or trap with graveyard effects. Which means that, in terms of letter grade, this goes well above a D, despite what the name might say. In fact, I'd go so far as to say it's at least an A-hole. Tindangle Intruder is a level 6 monster with 2200 attack and 0 defense, and if flipped, adds any Tindangle card from your deck to your hand. And when this card is normal summoned, you can send a Tindangle card from your deck to the grave. And if any number of monsters are special summoned to your field in face down defense position while this card is in your grave, special summon this card in face down defense position. This is not optional. I mean, it's not harmful to your game plan, so it's not bad, but it is funny that you don't get a say in the matter. This card will be revived. Now, by doing this, you won't get the Foolish Burial effect, but honestly, we've already got a ton of those kinds of effects. The Search one is probably way better. And you can actually set this up really easily with Drelth once again. Send this to the graveyard with it, then Drelth will special summon itself in face down defense position, which will then bring in the Intruder. I never thought I would be happy to have something intrude my space like this, but I guess there's a first time for everything. Tindangle Hound is a level 7 monster with 2500 attack and 0 defense, and if flipped, you can target one other face-up monster on the field, and this card gains attack equal to that target's original attack. Then, change that target to face down defense position. Each monster your opponent controls loses 1000 attack for each monster linked to it, and if this card is destroyed by a battle or card effect and sent to the grave, you can target a face down monster on the field and flip it to face up defense position. If you can get this onto the field with Angel, then you've just got yourself a brutal combo. See, while it's in defense position, your opponent will probably be able to run it over in battle pretty easily, and when they do, this will flip up a monster. Flipping Angel will revive the Hound, then end the battle phase. Then, when it's your turn, flip the Hound back up, targeting Angel, gaining its attack power, and then flipping Angel face down again, setting you up to blank another battle phase. Its debuff can also be pretty brutal because even if they don't run any link monsters, we can still use our EMZ to point to some of our opponent's zones. So the more Hounds you get, the better you are. Which sounds like good life advice in general. Get doggos, get happy. That's my motto. Just to, ignore all the cats that I have. Lastly, we have our boss monster, Tindangle Acute Cerberus, a Link 3 monster with 0 attack, requiring 3 Tindangle monsters as material. That is an abysmally low attack for a boss monster, especially one that we want to make with Dholes for a multi-attack. But that gets fixed when you see that it gains 3000 attack for having 3 or more Tindangle monsters with different names in your grave, including Tindangle Base Gardna. See, I told you how important this one was gonna be! It also gains 500 attack for each Tindangle monster this card points to, and at the end of the battle phase, if this card declared an attack, you can special summon a Tindangle token, which is a level 1 Dark Fiend monster with 0 attack and defense. These tokens can serve a variety of purposes, from giving Acute Cerberus more attack to providing link material. And if we have a flipped up Trinity, they'll be safe no matter what enemies show up to stop you. The attack boosting effect though does mean you are very vulnerable to grave disruption. If the odd Didi Crow or Ishizu Shuffler or Bestial shows up, all of a sudden you've lost a big game ending threat, so you'll need to get as many base Gardnas into the grave as possible to avoid the rug being pulled out from under you. And no one wants to see that happen. I mean, it's Acute Cerberus. Who would want to bully that? Alright, that's all the monsters. Now it's time for the spells and traps. Nagel's Protection is a continuous spell card, and while on the field, Tindangle monsters in your main monster zones cannot be destroyed by battle or your opponent's card effects. And once per turn, if your Tindangle monster inflicts battle damage to your opponent, the damage is doubled. And you can banish this card from your graveyard and discard a Tindangle card to add a copy of Nagel's Protection from your deck to your hand. So if this has ever been either from your opponent smashing it or you sending it to the grave with your myriad effects, you can turn any Tindangle card in your hand into a Nagel's Protection so you can get it back onto the field. Having another source of battle destruction immunity is nice, so Trinity doesn't have to do all the hard work in that regard, but there is a bit of an issue. First off, because it only protects the main monster zones, your Acute Cerberus isn't always going to benefit from its protection. And second, its protection is given to monsters of an archetype whose theme revolves around being face down a lot. While this hardly matters for battle protection, an errant Raigeki can wipe out a whole field of Tindangles while they're still lying in wait. Not to mention that during game 1, if you set a monster, then activate Nagel's Protection in anticipation, you've basically given away the element of surprise. That being said, this is a fantastic card for the theme, as it helps keep your monsters safe once you've established your offense, and the double battle damage is a fun little bonus that can be used when attacking, and also when being attacked if your opponent walks into a Tindangle that's bigger than it. It just goes to show that you do not mess with the Triforce. Stairs of Mail is a continuous spell card that, during your main phase, lets you activate this effect. Discard a Tindangle card, and if you do, apply one of the following effects. Either change a face-down defense position monster you control to face-up attack position, or change a face-up attack position monster you control to face-down defense position. Either way, during that turn, you cannot discard another card with the same name for the effect of Stairs of Mail. This means you've got the access code talker text, where you can technically activate it an unlimited number of times per turn, as long as you have differently named Tindangle cards to throw into it. This is outrageous because you're effectively turning every on-theme card in your deck into a Book of Moon or Book of Taiyu, the two cards that make the most of any flip monster strategy, especially in things like Empty Jar. And now you can just do that. Flip up a monster like Protector to get a lot of flip ups off one activation, then you can fill your hand with Tindangles to pitch for more flips. It's also helpful for just setting a monster like Trinity and immediately flipping it so you can get base Gardna, not to mention all the other flip cards you can trigger with it. Make ample use of this to accrue advantage and dismantle your opponent, and you'll be able to grab the win one step at a time. Euler's Circuit is a field spell card that keeps your opponent from attacking while you control 3 or more Tindangle monsters. And once per turn, during your standby phase, you can target a Tindangle monster you control and give control of it to your opponent. And like with Nagel's Protection, if this card is in the grave, you can banish it and discard a Tindangle card to add a copy of Euler's Circuit from your deck to your hand. So yeah, why negate your opponent's battle phase when you can just make it a null point altogether? This prevents your opponent from attacking your Tindangles in some kind of optimal order, and during your turn you can flip them up to your heart's content. The odd part though is that other effect, giving control of your Tindangles to your opponent. It seems strange to give up your own advantage for no benefit, but it's actually a really sneaky way of getting in a ton of damage. Remember how Acute Cerberus makes 0 attack and defense tokens? Well, if your opponent isn't able to attack thanks to Euler's Circuit, you can summon that token in attack position. Then, when it comes time, give that token to your opponent, specifically in the zone that your Acute Cerberus points to, if it's not already occupied. This will give you another 500 point boost because now it's pointing to another Tindangle monster, and gives you a very free attack on your opponent, giving you an opening to deal damage if your opponent's other monsters are too strong to contend with in combat. Not to mention, it also helps to enable a mode of our next card, so it's safe to say that despite appearances, hitting your opponent with the Xian Spy treatment is actually pretty impactful. And don't think I didn't notice, you dark magic circle. You can't hide between your weird Instagram filters. What, the arcane arts weren't enough for you? You had to delve into the deeper eldritch beyond? That's really dark, magician. Gargon's End is a normal trap card that targets a Tindangle Link monster you control and equips it to that target. It can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, nor can your opponent target it with card effects. And once per turn, if there are monsters in all zones the equipped monster points to, if there are still monsters in all the zones the equipped monster is pointed to at activation, you can destroy this card and all those monsters, including the equipped monster that's doing all the pointing, then inflict damage to your opponent equal to the equipped monster's attack before it was destroyed. Okay, so right off the bat, this makes your Link monsters a Towers, which at this point is only Acute Cerberus. But you know, maybe not for long. I make a video, some new support comes out for that archetype, it's just how things go. But then, once you get all 3 of the zones it points to occupied, you can destroy all of them to deal a lot of damage. And it's gonna have to be a game-ending amount of damage because you're effectively losing 4 cards while your opponent only loses 1. And if that card that they lose is a token that you gave them, that really doesn't count. Granted, in Acute Cerberus with the base Gardener boost of 3k plus 1500 for pointing to 3 Tindangles does mean you're burning for 4500 damage. So if you can find a way to deal 3500 more damage beforehand, or heck, your opponent pays that many life points, this can take them out in one shot. You know, so you can Gargon's End the game. Tindangle Delaunay is a normal trap card that you can activate when you take battle damage from an opponent's attacking monster, while you have 3 or more Tindangle monsters with different names in your grave. You can destroy the attacking monster, and if you do, special summon a Tindangle Acute Cerberus from your extra deck. If you control no monsters in the extra monster zone, you can banish this card from your grave, then target 3 Tindangle monsters with different names in your grave to special summon them in face down defense position. So remember how I said earlier that we had a soul charge you could send to the graveyard? Well, this is it, buddy, and it is ready to put in some massive work. You shove as many Tindangles into the grave as possible, use Drelth to put this in the graveyard, then grab your favorite 3 and put them on the board face down. If you have Stairs of Mail to combo with this, you can then flip up a Protector from among them to flip up the other 3 Tindangles that you have. The 2 you summoned off Delaunay and the Drelth to not only get all of their effects, but search out 3 more Tindangles, which gives you even more Stairs of Mail activations. And from this point you can do basically anything that you want. Sure, Acute Cerberus is on the table if you want, but since none of this applies a restriction to how you can use these cards, you could make just about any kind of Link monster that you want. Especially the ones that care about Fiend monsters, because some of those do lock you, but we fit into that so it's fine. The Grave effect is so good for this card that it's actually a detriment to use its on-field activation. Not only are you waiting around to get hit by battle damage from your opponent that you can't even force with your own attacking monster, by summoning Acute Cerberus, you have put a monster in the extra monster zone, which shuts off the Grave effect of Delaunay. Currently, this is the card you need to leverage if you want to see success with this deck. No ifs, ands, or buts. Utilize your new trio of monsters efficiently, and you'll have no problem triangulating your victory. Alright, that's all the Tindangle cards, but what do we do with them? Well, maximizing the power and amount of times we get to use Tindangle Delaunay's Grave effect is going to be paramount, so we're looking for all the best ways to enable it. That means we want ways to get Drelth in hand, dump a bunch of Tindangles into the grave, and lean on any other ways to send Delaunay to the grave if Drelth doesn't follow through. We may also want to find some other cool flip effects that might shore up our game plan and give us some other juicy effects to enable. So what can we play to help them out? Well, a quick and easy way to get Drelth into our hand is with Spirit of the Fall Winds, because normal summoning it puts any flip monster from our deck into our hand. In fact, this can be used to grab any Tindangle outside of base Gardena, but because of Drelth's special summon effect, it's the best choice. Though, if you're running any other flip monsters, this can be used to grab them as well. Speaking of which, what other flip monsters do we want to bring to the table? With Stairs of Mail, our ability to capitalize on powerful flip effects is through the roof, so we can easily make use of a card like Brainjacker to steal our opponent's best monsters. Convertible is a pretty easy to summon monster that helps us to access our higher leveled flip monsters, as well as our off-theme ones, Pot of the Forbidden being one that comes to mind most often. Raigeki may be legal now, but it's still a hell of a way to clear a monster lineup. Shaddols make for a great companion piece to Tindangles. Despite being another member of the Flip Continuum, Shaddol Fusion is great for sending our materials directly from the deck to the graveyard, which will trigger our Shaddol's effects, as well as a few Tindangles. Now, because all of our monsters are dark, this usually means we're only summoning Winda, but only summoning Winda is like saying you can only summon dark monsters. It's basically the best option anyway. And with all of our effects that send spells and traps from the deck to the graveyard, we can even include Shaddol Core as a way to get back those Shaddol fusions and other theme stamped spells and traps. Higher level flips also include things like the Sub-Terrors and the Prediction Princesses, but I feel like those two themes work well in tandem, and at this point we're filling our non-engine slots with way too much splashing, so we're going to try and focus on a few free agent ones. Flippin' Feline is an interesting one because we can use it as fuel for some kind of effect, flip that monster up, and then it can turn a monster we used as fuel for an effect into an actual monster once per turn. Greed Jar is... well, it's a fun way to fill our grave with cards while getting to pick a fun freebie out of them, but honestly, the more I look at it, the more I wish it just worked better with Sylvans. Mimicking Maneater Bug is a pretty fun piece of removal that gets big and comes with conditional effect destruction protection, on top of just not being able to be destroyed by battle at all. Ret Time Reviver Emitter is basically a slower Book of Moon, taking any monster on the field and flipping it face down. This could help you run over an opponent's monster, or reset one of your Tindangle effects, all while giving you tuner access, so I guess have fun with synchros. And if we want more ways to send our Tindangles to the graveyard, Terrifying Toddler of Torment is strangely qualified for the position. Like, I don't believe they've got 5 years experience sending combo pieces from deck to grave. This is like 8 months old, at best. World Legacy Pawns is kind of strange. Unless we tech in some crawlers, we're unable to use the effect that Book of Moon's monsters, but we do have access to the effect that turns face down monsters face up once per turn. And because it's stapled to a trap card, this does let us use our effects at quick effect speed, allowing us to use cards like Angel and Protector more efficiently because we're not letting our opponent decide what gets flipped when. Teching in a copy of Instant Fusion wouldn't be a bad idea either, as it gives you immediate access to the Master of Ham. It gets you a flip monster on Fusion Summon and when flipped face up, and that's any flip monster, so go nuts. And if it's in the grave, you can banish 2 flip monsters from your field and or grave to bring it back in defense position. Now, if it leaves the field from this point, it does get banished, but it is set up for another flip monster summon, and that's pretty grand. But the real boogeyman here is that we have access to empty jar tactics with Morphing Jar. As long as each hand that we draw has 2 Tindangle cards that we haven't used to activate Stairs of Mail, you can keep triggering it over and over and over again. And that's not even mentioning whatever Books of Moon or Taio that you find along the way to supplement that. And running Night Assailant can help with this because even though it can't grab other copies of itself for that infinite loop anymore, it can grab any flip monster that's in your grave when sent from the hand to the grave, kind of like when you discard your hand for Morphing Jar. Which means you can grab back Tindangles that have not been used for Stairs yet to get more Stairs activations. How about some of those Fiend links? Beat Cop of the Underworld is pretty funny because it's a link monster you can make that tributes itself from the EMZ, giving you a way to use a second Delaunay because that card is not once per turn. There's a plethora of nightmare monsters to choose from for utility, and you can't go wrong with Moon of the Closed Heaven. I mean, it gets you into Fiendsmith combos, sure, but it also helps you to make Underworld Goddess of the Closed World using 2 of your opponent's monsters. And if Closed Moon is your link 2 for that, that means you only need to contribute 1 more of your own monsters to make it, which is a pretty sweet trade. And Underworld Goddess's role as an extra deck kaiju often overshadows her actual effects. Hey, did you know that she's a one-sided skill drain for your opponent's monsters when she's summoned? Yeah, anything she sees when summoned, boom, they're a vanilla now. It can be hit by non-targeting effects, so no Raigeki and no cards that negate activations. And they better forget about summoning from the graveyard too, because we can negate those effects too. Seriously, this card is sick, and we're not even done yet. Unchained Soul Lord of Yama just takes Fiend monsters to make, and its presence opens up Unchained Soul of Rage and Anguish, which also let you link summon using your opponent's monsters, letting you pull an Underworld Goddess so you can summon Unchained Abomination. And of course, we can't forget Muckraker from the Underworld, as it revives a Fiend for you every turn, and you can even tribute other Fiends to protect her to keep the effect around longer. As for a silly tech pick, it's time to take a look at the TCG exclusive category, this time from the Phantom Nightmare roster, Sunset Beat. When your monsters get flipped face down, you pop a card on the field. When they get flipped up, you burn your opponent for damage equal to the flipped monster's level times 200. Get this with Hound, and that's doing 1400 damage. So not only does this pair well with our game plan of detonating Gorgon's End, it's also like taking your monsters on a little tropical vacation, which is just great. And that's all I've got to say about Tindangle. Mimigools currently have the market cornered on Flip Deck with the most potential, but for a time, Tindangle captured the minds of janky brewers everywhere, and I don't think it's lost its luster over the years. It's still capable of some outrageous feats of link summoning, and while deck that makes a bunch of guys has been done before and has been proven to be not quite enough to win, I don't think the sun is set on our non-Euclidean friends yet. With how well they synergize with other flip mechanics out there, I think this deck's time to shine is just around the corner. But now, I want to hear what you all have to say. Do Tindangles have an edge on the competition, or do they lack the power they need to turn the corner? And which one's your favorite? I gotta go with the cute Cerberus myself, the big triangle heads with the stinger that splits open into a fleshy maw. Incredible. Let me know your favorite down below, and if you haven't already, please be sure to like the video if you liked it, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and be sure to share this video with somebody you know who loves Yu-Gi-Oh! It really does a lot to help me out. Today's episode is brought to you by Dragon Shield. Get the sleeves as strong as dragon scales and get 5% off your order by using the coupon code GoldenNova at checkout. It was also brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commanders, Upstairs Media, and Natiel Lee Alexander, Nebula Navigators 3rd Dynasty, 50 Gigabytes, Ada Basilisk, Adam Zajdel, Ancient Wizard, Andrew Newman, Battle Axe, Kane Senpai, Chibi Gohan, Christopher Fuss, Clockswork, Comrade Cobblebottom, Eric, Frankie, Garland Chaos, Going It/Its for the Bit/Bits, Great Big Pillock, Hair Bear, Happy Majin, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Iron Zero, Iskander 711, Carp, Marion James E. Picata, Millennia Asta, Muse Clark, Neon Yaminair, Orozco 09096, Panther J, Pat Poos, Rank 10 Trains, Rebel King Lucifer, Red Eyes Jackalow, RJ the Jank Monarch, The Critic of Innocence, Thievery Coast and the Wizard Moose, Cosmic Crusaders Animasta, Baron von Titty Sprinkles, Beelzephyr, Fish, Beluga Masta, Blitzwolf, Caesar M, Chaz Ghost, Dr. Reaper RIP, Eva Padilla, Hike Boyagian, Herbal D, Ignis Heat the True Draco Slayer, Inblink, Kale the Dragon, Lobomaru 02, Manga Pages, Matt Simmons, McSpoofy, Mike, Nitromo, Not Al Gore, Nyx, Obsidian, Rainer Leong, Rhyme Kairos, Shizuki Nijimura, Sir Knight JCB, Sophie, apparently, Stephen Williamson, The Legendary Raven, The Phantom Knights of Shitted Pants, the Gene, Tiger X2476, Weasel King of Weaseltown, and Zaldreka, as well as the wonderful Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. If you'd like to help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, get my videos early, be a part of these credits and other awesome perks, it would mean the world to me if you would check out the link to my Patreon in the description or consider joining as a YouTube member. And if you'd like to see what Akira's sibling is up to, check out this video I made covering Trickstars. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. The ard part, then you're not cyberpunk, you're propaganda. Thank you, Moby, once again for your timely jump. I don't know what I would do without you. You're just a great little guy.